Folks, welcome to another Voxcast, another tournament report. We've been to a few recently.
Yeah.
And this time for the Alliance Open, which was all the way in Amsterdam.
Yes.
Kind of outside of Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Kind of Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Well, it is technically
It was Amsterdam. Yeah, it was. It was.
It was nearer the airport than the city.
It was this big convention centre.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, it was a nice hotel.
Yeah.
So it's put out.
These big long corridors, which you were saying.
I think it's like The Shining.
Yeah.
Like really.
Yeah. I mean, we only saw one pair of twins, and he roundhouse kicked them to the head. And
Yes.
that was it.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, they were old adults as well. The whole thing was confusing.
If I had seen a pair of twins as an apparition, I would have flown away immediately.
Yeah. Well, we've seen enough horror films to know that you just leave, don't you?
Yeah, don't stay there.
No.
For those of you which haven't seen The Shining,
You should
and
see
don't
it.
know what we're talking about, the twin girls in The Shining, watch The Shining for a start.
Yeah.
And two, they're terrifying.
Yes.
So anyway, the hotel was a bit like The Shining in
Yeah.
a weird way, called the Overlook Hotel in The Shining.
Yeah.
No Jack Nicholson there this time.
No.
But there you go.
Yeah.
There were a lot of wargamers,
They were.
all hosted by the Alliance. They're called Tabletop Alliance. You can find them on Instagram and also on Facebook as well. And they were lovely hosts. And I think there was a turnout of 120 players in the end. So it was a grand
It
tournament.
was huge.
It was run in a modified ETC, so ETC being the European Team Championships format, but also awarded ITC points, the Independent Tournament Circuit points. So you sort of got, if you're whatever you're into, you kind of got the best of both worlds. So yeah, it was good. We kind of went to go and get some ITC points, didn't we? Because we're going to Vegas.
Yeah.
In the LVO next year, which would be fun.
Yeah. I now need to win Vegas.
That's right. Now you need to win Vegas. So yeah, it was really, really strong field. Lots of people from the UK, some big players came over, and obviously a lot of the Dutch and neighbouring countries teams who were part of the various ETC teams came over as well. So it attracted a whole breadth of folks, which is really, really good. So the quality of play was really high. And yeah, I mean, we had a brutal tournament. It was
tough.
It was hardcore. It was absolutely hardcore. So before we get into our lists, I should probably just tell you a little bit about the ETC format. It's not strictly the ETC format. They tweaked a couple of things. Personally, I haven't played too much ETC. I played a lot more ITC and just regular 40k. So essentially it sort of used the same format which most of these tournaments use, which is having a primary mission being one of the Eternal Wars from Chapter Approved in this instance, although sometimes from the main rulebook as well.
Yeah.
They mixed it up. Because, like, for example, they put the Relic in, which most tournaments don't run anymore.
Don't have anymore, yeah.
Yeah, so it was interesting. So they tweaked it into their own format, right? And then they've got Maelstrom running concurrently with it as well. And depending on the points that you get from both the Eternal War and the Maelstrom and all of the secondaries like First Blood and all of that jazz, so you add all of the points together at the end, so you get loads and loads of points. And then they work out how much you win by taking all of your points and minusing what your opponent's gotten.
Yeah. And
in the difference between the two, there's like a little chart that they've got. So you can get tournament results of between 0 and 20 points. And yeah, there's basically a little formula that goes with how that's worked out. So good fun. You know, it's always good fun to play Eternal and Maelstrom. I actually really quite enjoy that. And I think I'd love to see GW do something like that with their own mission pack. I think that would be really, really cool, because a lot of people do enjoy playing it that way anyway.
Yeah, which is cool.
But yeah, that just gives you a little idea. If you want to get the proper mission pack, go check out Tabletop Alliance on Facebook or Instagram, and you can download, I think, still the tournament pack and tournament rules if you're interested in it. So that's what happened in terms of the format. We should probably talk about, well, why don't we cover you first, Mr. Bone?
All right.
We'll go over your army list, and then we'll go over his games, and that's coming up next.
Well, it was Tau in the house, a single faction codex going all the way to Amsterdam to see if it could do the business, and it couldn't. Not really. It was okay. It was okay. I learnt a lot playing this tournament, to be fair. And there were some things that I definitely will do differently. I'm looking forward to chapter approved because I want to see where the points sit now, because there's some different things. And I'll kind of talk about that maybe at the end of the sorts of lists that I think I'm going to need to look at moving forward with Tau.
Yeah, maybe we can both have a little
palaver there.
Yeah.
Palaver? It's pavlova is a dessert.
Pavlova is a dessert.
Palaver, I think, is the word I'm looking for. I think it's from the Dark Tower series, and it's when you sit down and you have a talk with your group of people.
Like a parlay.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's obviously in a different world sort of thing. It's a great book series if you've not read it. I think I've got that right. Someone will tell me if you Stephen King as well though.
Yeah.
So we're on the Shining fan. On the Shining.
I'm a big horror fan.
Yeah, I can be. I'm a bit of a wimp.
Yeah. So I am if I saw a real something, like if I saw the twins for real.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You just leave, don't you?
I'm not interested in that.
Well, it's just like, that's the thing, like, if I moved into a house, right, like, I always think about this, if I moved into a house and it was suddenly to get haunted, I just go, okay, cool, all right. I wake up my family, I go, excellent, we're going outside now, and I torch the place, and then I just leave.
Wow.
They just go, well, what do we do for money now? I go, it's not important, we're alive.
Yeah, we're alive and not haunted.
And not haunted forever. Yeah.
But it sounds like you might have been haunted by your results with the
I
tower, am I right?
I
am I
was.
right? Up
You're
top.
not wrong, buddy. Oh yeah! Let's take you through this list.
Right.
Okay, so I ran a dual battalion, and then I also ran an outrider detachment. So
lots of command points.
Lots of command points, which are needed if you're going to run this type of list, really. And reason being, knights. Knights, you need lots and lots of command points to try and deal with knights.
There were 1 or 2 knights there, weren't there?
Well, it's always funny, like you build a list going, oh well, I've put velocity trackers on it, all of my stuff, in the hope that I'll play, some Eldar to really kind of make use of it.
Yeah.
Then you don't play any, not one.
But that is just
it's always
typical.
the way.
It's called Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
That's saying, yeah.
Classic Murphy.
Yeah.
But here's the list. So 1st Battalion, I had my Fireblade. He was my Warlord. He did have 3 Unity Devastation. I then had a Cold Star with 4 Fusion Blasters. I then had an Ethereal. I had 3 units of Fire Warriors. They were units of 6. 3 Riptides, Heavy Burst Cannon, Smart Missiles, ATS, Velocity Tracker. Another battalion. I had a Commander Enforcer. I had Dark Strider in there, who is so good if you're playing Tau Sept. He's now like an auto-include for me. He did such a lot of work that tournament.
Yeah.
I then had the other 3 units. I had 1 unit of 7 Fire Warriors though, because I had an extra 7 points. And then 2 more of 6. 2 units of Pathfinders, bare bones there, didn't have the Pulse Accelerator or Grav Inhibitor drones. Actually, weirdly would have come in handy a couple of times if I'd had both of them, but there you go. I then had, in the Outrider, I had another Cold Star, so I took 2 Cold Stars, and I took 3 units of drones, so I had 3 shield drones in each and 4 marker drones in each. So that was the list. It was 1998 points. The thing about this list, maybe I'll talk about the list now and then go into the games.
Sure.
Maybe, yeah, just because it makes that kind of flows, right? Doesn't
Okay.
it? Yeah. So the thing about this is it was I didn't get tabled, not once. It was incredibly survivable. It's not that it wasn't killy. It was killy enough. But when you know, if you're playing like lots of knights and things like that, it takes a full turn with pretty much your whole army to kill one,
Right.
because you're running with lots of strength 6. Now there's ways that you can make that better,
And that's just 1 knight, right?
and that's just one knight, but especially if it's got the 3-up invulnerable save.
Sure.
And the thing, a lot of you kind of go, oh well, why didn't you just shoot at the other knights? You could, but you kind of couldn't in some cases as well. But anyway, so it just wasn't quite killing enough, and also it wasn't quite mobile enough, even with dropping the broadsides, which actually, funnily enough, probably would have done really well with the matchups that I'd had. Because I didn't face Elder once. Actually, like if I'd gone full castle, it may have been better to use these guys, but it's one of those things. But the Cold Stars did a lot of work. They were good, especially I put vector thrusters on one of them, so you got jump, shoot, jump. Man, I hope that Tau get that back. It just makes them so much more fun to play.
Jetpack should have that.
Well, jetpack at the moment means nothing.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, and also why do Riptides even have the fly keyword at the moment other than to fall out of combat? You can't deep strike them. You can't do anything with them.
No, although you do get to ignore terrain and stuff.
Yeah.
When you move in the movement phase.
I guess that's
it is a great ability to have.
It's pretty good,
but I think thematically I'd love to see it, and also just game wise, because it would give a lot more validity to things like crisis suits, which I know are probably a little overpointed at the moment. This is all pre-chapter approved talk, so obviously if anything changes, fair enough.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, exactly. But it would just Tau would make them more interesting, and actually what they used to be able to do. So
which would be exciting. But anyway, I think Tau, the problem is with this list, because it is, even though like Riptides can move when they need to, and they can, you do get a bit hemmed in with this list, because you don't really want to move your Riptides out away from your drones, because you want to keep them alive, and then you don't want to move your drones out, so you kind of have to move the whole castle, but then you can just pick off the drones and the Riptides die a lot quicker.
Right.
So you end up very static and very stuck. And when you're playing a lot of the missions like that we played, you actually needed to have a lot more mobility in the force, and it wasn't enough. The Cold Stars didn't quite give it enough. I think given with Chapter Approved, seeing what happens, I still am a big fan of Riptides at the moment. They're probably still the best unit that you can take in Tau, as far as, rate of fire, survivability, points cost, etc. Again, this is Chapter Approved. I'm sure you Tau players have been reading online, seeing there's going to be a points hike with them, if you believe the rumours, which will be great. Woohoo! I just think the list lacked the ability to take and hold objectives properly, and that's kind of where I lost a few games. So especially there was a couple of games where I just couldn't get out there and hold the objectives in time without losing alpha units, and therefore the list just didn't work as well as I hoped it would. It was a bit different because when I took the same list to the LGT, for example, knights weren't a thing then. So actually Riptides could dominate a battlefield. Strength 6 was enough, really, and if you came up against something like a Baneblade or something like that, you had the Cold Stars to really put in the damage, and guess what? They wouldn't have got a save against it. So the kind of Riptide wing then worked really well, whereas now, if 3 Riptides will statistically kill 1 knight a turn, sometimes 1 and a bit knights, if you can get them without the 3 up invulnerable. If you can get them with the 4 up invulnerable, you might do 1.5 knights. But then the firepower that comes back, and also because everyone's running them with the Loyal 32, the knights are moving forward, the Loyal 32, they spread out, they start capturing all the objectives, suddenly you're down 11 points by turn 2, because if you move out with that list, it crumples. So that's the kind of fundamental issue that I had. So things that I'll start looking at now, maybe implementing stealth suits in there so I can drop them onto objectives, hold them there. The -1 to hit would make them really interesting. You put them in cover, they've also got a 2-up save. Stuff like that. At the moment they're a bit too expensive, but I'm hoping that Chapter Approved may address that. So that's kind of like the general thoughts on the list. It could do the business. It didn't die, and in fact if I was just playing normal games of 40k, actually, because you didn't. One thing that we forgot to mention is tabling your opponent was not an automatic win.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
+3.
Gave +3 points, which is good. But actually, against my list, that wouldn't have been enough, even if I'd done that. So I learned a lot about the current meta. And where my list fits in, and where Tau fits into it at the moment. And it's an interesting spot.
And I think on that as well, before we go into your games, because it really does tie into what you're saying. That sort of Tau, the natural Tau build is to do something a little bit more castle-like, which means that you don't have great board control. And these primary and secondary missions, or Eternal War and Maelstrom missions, the way they're combined encourages, which is a good thing, by the way, you to get out across the board and hold multiple objectives. It's progressive, what they call progressive scoring, so you're scoring lots of things at the same time.
Which is actually a really fun way to play.
Which is good, that's why people enjoy it.
And it's what isn't fun is when you realise when after your second game you go, I've brought the wrong list to this tournament.
Right.
Because of how it plays, and then you just go, okay, cool.
But there's another problem with that. you see, I'm not sure actually you would have the same problem if it was an ITC format.
Not as much.
No, and the reason I say that, and it's not, I'm not knocking the. It's not. It wasn't technically the ETC format, guys. It was a modified version, but where it fails for me, if I'm being honest, is that you are drawing the Maelstrom cards. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the Maelstrom cards. You know, I really enjoy it, and I would love the deck to be used. And actually, the no retreat format hosted by SM Battle Reports helps mitigate this really well in their own pack. It's more how I would address it. But the reality is that the Maelstrom is worth as many points, or frankly, often more than the primary, than the Eternal War. And if you just draw bad cards, you can lose the game before it begins. And like the very first mission that we're about to go into now was Deadlock, the one where you start with 6 cards.
Yeah.
And it goes 5 cards, 4 cards, depending on the turn number, right? Now, if you just draw 6 really bad cards and your opponent draws 5 great cards or whatever, you are at a massive, massive disadvantage. Whereas in ITC, it's hold 1, kill 1.
Yeah.
Did I hold more? Get a point. Did I kill more? I get a point. And then you've got your secondaries that you can choose based on the opponent. So it makes it actually a little fairer. Now, I don't necessarily... It does become more bland. You know, it's a bit like a no-frills version of 40k.
Yeah.
And I miss the cards when I do it. So I don't think ITC quite get it right. But in terms of balance, I think, personally, I found the missions a little bit more balanced than when you're drawing straight from the deck and they're just worth all of their points.
Yeah.
Unless you make that Maelstrom, when you're drawing from the deck, like they do in No Retreat, a secondary mission.
Yeah.
So like in No Retreat, if you win the primary, you get 14 points, tournament points. If you win the secondary, you get 8.
Yeah.
So you could have 30 Maelstrom points to your opponent's 4, because you drew loads of good cards or whatever, but it'd still only be worth 8 tournament points. And that way your opponent can be smart as well. They realise that they're just not going to win the Maelstrom, they'll just focus on the primary, try and beat you on the primary. So if they win the primary, they'll still have 14 points to the person's 8 anyway.
Yeah.
And then they've got the secondary, which I know that's a different format. I think it's important going into these missions, because your list, I don't think, would have been as badly punished in something like an ITC format.
Yeah.
Or in a retreat format.
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, I mean, but that also is a very important part of, you know, building your lists towards tournaments as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lesson in you can't now just have one list for all tournaments.
No, you don't.
One list to rule them all.
Yeah, which is a shame in a way.
Yeah, it is in a way. And
It's a shame that we're not all playing the same game.
Yeah, well, I mean, but maybe
Make it a
that's
bit simpler.
I think that's more indicative of the game itself at the moment, rather than. But that's a different Voxcast. Before we get into that,
Good point.
But yeah. But look, so let's talk about these games, and then we'll talk about how I got on with them. I took a few pictures this time. I didn't take any last time.
Now, this is the weird thing. I didn't take any this time. I literally didn't have the time.
So
but all right, we'll kick off with yours.
I'll show you a couple little pickies. But the first game was against Oscar, who's an absolute boss. I actually met him at SN, and he brought his custodies, and I'll let you know how that went in just a minute. So, game 1 was played, as I said, against Oscar. Really lovely fella. We knew each other already. We'd actually played at No Retreat. It was the first time I'd met him, and he brought the exact same list he brought then to this tournament. So last time I played him against my White Hides, and that's when you could take more than 3 commanders. So I had like 5 or 6.
Right.
Which is a fun list. Yeah, which was a good list. It was a good list. Now illegal. Probably for good reason as well. But yeah, so we had a good game. It was a bit of a mismatch though, unfortunately. He had a lot of Praetors on bikes.
Yep.
And Dawn Eagles. So it just was, and then it was also the mission where you had to choose which unit that you would get the bonus points for. So I just chose his fast attack units.
Yeah, so it was Deadlock as the Maelstrom.
Yeah.
And it was modified big guns never tire. So here's a classic example of something they changed. Normally it's heavy support, but they let you choose the army role.
Yeah. So I chose fast attack.
Right.
And I mean he had the right list to try and mitigate that. He had the -1 banner in there, and he moved correctly and all that sort of stuff. But it just wasn't enough, and it wasn't helpful as well. that he was rolling so badly. It was just appalling. Like, because he's got a 3-up, 4-up invulnerable across his entire army, and he there wasn't a save where he passed everyone. Not once did that happen. And we got to a point where we were just laughing. It was pretty early in the morning at this stage. I just went and bought him a beer. We relaxed. We had a good time. We still managed to get 5 rounds out, which was good. It's actually one of the only games we finished. I finished, rather.
All right.
I didn't finish many games. And then, I mean, he actually, it was funny though, because we were playing quite slowly because we knew each other, we were having a good time. But we got to a point where he was actually smashing me on the Maelstrom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he drew really well, but he couldn't kill anything, and all of his stuff kept dying.
Right.
And then he kind of hid, and it's always interesting to hide when you're hiding with things with 3-up invulnerables, which are out of line of sight. It's a problem.
Yeah.
But this is when Riptide's mobility really comes into play. So when you Nova charge their boost, it's Nova boost, so they can move an additional 2d6 in the charge phase.
Right.
So then I was able to actually cross the board. I believe it was Dawn of War to start with as well, which again was a great deployment for him. So I was able to get across the board and route him all out in time. But it was a really close game. I mean, it was one of those things. All of the terrain, in fact, on all of the boards was really good. I think functionally, actually, it's the best terrains I've ever played on.
Yeah, terrain was really good.
Really, really good. I've played on more pretty boards in my time, but the actual functionality of all of the terrain there was superb, and it really changed how the games played out.
Yeah, and it was all painted well.
It was all painted really well. Yeah. I think when I say pretty, like, it's more like I've played on maps with like big temple complexes and all that sort of stuff.
No Retreat takes it to a very different, like we'll have cast boards and
all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Whereas this was it was all painted to a really nice standard, and you were pretty much just playing in line of sight blocking and ruins, and they had lots of craters and containers and all that sort of stuff. It was great. It was really, really bang on. You did a great job. But yeah, so that's how that game went. He moved up, tried to kill as much as he could. I then I backlined completely, so then he was right in the kill zone. I just started kind of wiping him out. He did get some charges off, but obviously with Talset, even though he got like one guy in, it really didn't make any difference. I'd screened well with my Fire Warriors, so it couldn't get into my Riptides anyway, and I just kind of took him out one piece at a time. I then made some really crazy saves on one of my Cold Stars. He got into combat with one of my Cold Stars with I think it was one of the captains, and my Cold Star lived.
Wow.
He lived.
Oh, how depressing.
Yeah, so he missed everything. He missed all the attack, and the one time that he wounded me, I rolled a 6. And I just bounced out of combat with him.
Just like, I am the mightiest warrior of the Imperium,
of all
the Emperor's
Tau.
chosen,
Yeah.
and I can't kill a Tau commander.
Yeah, well, so that was cool.
I mean, if it was Farsight, maybe.
Yeah,
Farsight's a badass.
Yeah, well, I know. This is the Shadowstrike Enclave, though. Don't forget that they are...
It was a Custody shield captain.
I know, he couldn't kill him! So yeah, I believe I tabled Oscar in the last turn. We had about 20 minutes left, and that was it. That was the game. It played out how I thought it would. Which is, I mean, like I say, it's just a bad matchup, coupled with bad luck. Even though he did quite well on the Maelstrom, I think once it all evened out, it actually ended up like a 17-3 victory to me.
Right.
When I say evened out, you've done all the points and everything. But yeah, it was good. It was, it was great. Thank you for the game, Oscar. I really enjoyed it. And I'm not sure how you went with the rest of it. I hope you got some more wins in. I think you did get a couple. If it's anything like what happened at SN, I beat him, and then he did so well, he actually overtook me and placed better than me at the end. So it may have even been the same situation this time. So yeah, that was game 1.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we'll go into your second game then. That's coming up next.
And then it was game 2. I was playing with Mikhail. I think that's how I pronounce your name, mate. I kept calling you Michael, which was not right. But we had an excellent game. He had a stunning looking army. The conversions on it were great. It was like Nurgle mixed in with knights, effectively. So Nurgle demons and knights.
Oh yeah, I remember actually.
Yeah, he had a couple of demon princes in there, which were all converted. They looked incredible.
He got a best army nomination.
Yeah, he should. Well, he deserved it. And then the big knight itself had like tentacles now. It was very cool. It was a very cool looking army.
The Helverin's top panel came
off, and you could see.
And the guy inside was all chained and
it was
walked into the console. It was just it was epic,
beautiful. Yeah, such a lovely looking army. So that was an interesting game. I don't think I seized, but I rolled a 6 to go first, which was quite cool.
Right, good start.
It was a good start, and then so he had this is where the kind of lists that my army was going to struggle against, though, because he had Nurgling bases. We were playing Ascension as well, so he could start off just go plonk 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 with all of the Nurgling bases on Ascension, because in Ascension they are all of those three are in the middle of the board. This was modified as well. It wasn't about the commander so much. It was any unit on there just scored a point.
Yeah, but the character would score it over anyone else, though.
Yeah. But it didn't increase. Doesn't Ascension increases?
Yeah, that's where they modified it. It wasn't 1 point for the first turn, then 2 points for the second turn. It was only ever going to be 1 point.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a modification they did, but yeah.
Yeah. So we did all that. He deployed really well, though. So he was just racking up the points. I had a great first turn. I killed his knight turn 1. Didn't even get to shoot it. I just went bang, 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 let's go.
Depressing.
Yeah, I know.
Especially if he's just got the one, because you're like, oh.
Well, I had 2 Helverin, so he killed that, and then I got a little bit greedy. I went for another Helverin. I got the Helverin as well. So I killed his knight and Helverin turn 1. So he had 1 Helverin left. I kind of, with the cold starts, I threw them away a little bit, because I kind of knew I was doing it, but I was like, you know what, actually, if I can remove both of these now, it will be good. But then he just countercharged me with these Demon Princes turn 2 and killed both of the cold stars.
Were they all Nurgle, this army?
All Nurgle. Yeah. Whole thing was Nurgle. So that hurt. And then it just came down to game of attrition. He had lots of plague bearers in there, so you're trying to get rid of them, and they're just quite survivable. I was doing it, but it was just taking too long. Yeah. The Nurgle bases, again, were just scoring point after point after point. There was this moment where I thought I'd cleared out all of the chaff on the left wing to be able to actually open up with my Riptides onto his Demon Princes.
Right.
I just went the Nurgle bases when I was wearing my glasses, but it's funny how sometimes you'll be playing a game and you're looking at everything and you just miss a little model that's hiding there.
Yeah.
So then I cleared out everything. I've done this all right, but then I had this one Riptide left. I was like, cool. I've got Markalite support. I'm going to open up him. I'm going to use command and control mode, and actually statistically that will kill a Demon Prince.
Sure.
And I think I maybe even had 2 Riptide. But I'd figured it out that if that had paid off, actually then my whole force was going to swing around here, and it would have worked. I didn't see this Nurgling base, so I had to pretty much expend, because then my Riptide could fire at nothing else. So I had to expend an entire Riptide on Nurglings, and I think I did. I'm pretty sure I killed it, but it nearly survived as well.
Stress.
It was but anyway, so then he had a whole nother turn of coming forward with the Demon Princes. I managed to clear them, but it was too late. We only got to turn 4 as well. But I still had 3 Riptides coming forward down the board. I was trying to get them down there, but then he was able to just put his Helverin behind there because he was beating me on Maelstrom by this point.
Yeah.
If the game had gone on to turn 5 or 6, I would have tabled him, and I actually probably would have won.
Yeah.
But we kind of just ran out of time, and that was not through anyone's fault so much. It's just we were being very chatty and we're having a really good time.
The thing is that it's Nurgle as well.
Yeah.
Or any army which involves quite a lot of combat. So people will go, oh well, that's okay. You should be able to finish the game. Yeah, maybe. It's a bit circumstantial when people say that, because the thing is that they've got a lot of additional dice rolling happening with those feel no pains.
Yeah.
So you've got all of your rolling to hit, you're rolling to wounds, you've got all of your 5-up invulnerable saves, you've got all of your 5-up discussing your resilience saves. Then in the morale phase, they might get some back, Sloppity Bile Piper, with an icon in there, etc. And it just takes time. And then the minute they get into combat, he's
Again.
activating, then you're activating,
Yeah.
then he's activating, then you're
It just takes a
activating.
long time.
Those games, are going to be slower. That's
Yeah.
just the way it is. They almost always have a psychic phase as well.
Yeah.
So whilst they don't have that much shooting, although in this instance he's got knight, so he did have a little bit of shooting, it plays a lot. It plays longer. It just plays longer. Any horde will play longer, especially if there's combat involved.
Yeah. And so it's just it was just one of those things, Where, but I mean, we had an awesome game. He played really well. There was also right in the center of the board, around one of the Ascension tokens, was a big blob of 20 something plague bearers, and then with all of his characters in there, hidden within there as well. So I mean,
did he have a tree?
No, he didn't have a tree.
Oh.
But he didn't need it. I couldn't see him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it was good. That was good. That really changed the dynamic of the game, and that piece of terrain there, quite frankly, probably won him the game and it was good. It was.
So what was the end result then?
I think it was he won 16-8 or something like that. So yeah, with a couple of more, because by the end I was now holding most of the objectives. So with a couple of good draws and that sort of stuff, I may have been able to swing it back, or at least make it closer. But yeah, I couldn't score the points. And then when I missed that Nurgling base, it just kind of threw everything out.
That was the true turning
Threw
point.
everything out by a turn, which was cool. But yeah, he played really well. He knew his army really well. He knew all the tricks to do. So it was awesome. And it's such a pleasure to play an army that someone's put so much effort into.
Yeah.
Looked absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. I've taken some photos, I believe I have, so you'll pop up and see a couple of these. They're just really good. So yeah, that was my game 2, so it's now 1 win, 1 loss.
Okay, not bad.
At tournaments, this is normally what happens. I win my first game, and then I lose my second game. It's a curse I intend to break. But that might be for next time. But then we'll go into my third game, which was against a fellow called Jasper, and he brought orcs, which I was really excited about playing.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that'll be coming up in just a sec. So, Jasper put his orc army on the table, and I was excited to see he had 11 tractor cannons.
Not as good as the Smasher gun, though.
No, but
That's still really good. They're still really good.
Really good. So I'm doing internal panicking. I'm like, okay, that's good.
Because you happen to have quite a few alpha units with the fly key.
I did, yeah. So he had that happen, and then he had a whole bunch of bikes in there. He had his war boss on this big buggy thing, which was quite cool. He had 3 blobs of 30 boys, so 90 boys, and weird boys. It was a proper orc army. It was cool. Yeah. Tau is an incredibly hard counter to orcs, I found out. Even with tractor cannons, because they are only one shot, and actually if you position your drones in a way which they cannot be shot at, because once they're deployed they can only move, I think it's 3 inches.
Yeah, quite slow. Yeah.
Actually, then you mitigate their firepower almost entirely, because he had to be shooting at my Riptides with them. So he was still winning on 3s, but 1 or a 2, that's it. It's only one shot, and then I could just pass it over on a 2 anyway. And then I was actually rolling quite hot with my shield drone saves, so I made quite a few, which just absorbed the fire.
Nice.
So I was able to kind of shut down that firepower quite substantially, which was good. Again, it was just a weird matchup. I think actually 11 tractor cannons against anything else would be a real problem, especially with the amount of boys that he had. Yeah. He had such good board control. But then, made a lot of charges with Here We Go and everything, but I knew that he had to come towards me, so everything was within 6 of each other, and every time that he charged me, I could just greater good him off the board. And I did. I continued to do so. And then I had my Cold Stars were jumping around, picking off characters. I was using Vector Thrust. I probably played the best I played. This was my game that I played really well. And it was kind of, I don't want to say a foregone conclusion, but but I kind of got out ahead, and then I managed to hold all the. I managed, because my cold sails were so manoeuvrable, and my riptides were able to move forward. I had managed to hold 2 more on the primary at the end of the game.
Right.
So I beat him by the additional 4 points. I did have to kill. He had 1 tractor cannon left on one of them, and I had to kill it to not get a draw.
Oh, wow. Okay. It was actually quite close then.
Yeah, it was quite close. This is what I mean. I think I still would have maybe won by a point, or maybe he even would have won by a point. It was one or the other way. But I managed to kill that, and then suddenly, because then I was holding 2 more than him, and then I pulled the victory out of the bag. But we had a really good game. Really funny fella. God, he made me laugh.
Yeah.
Really fun. Lovely fun. I think he plays for the Belgium ETC crowd.
Yeah.
Good player. Great army.
Yeah.
Really fun game. Not really much else to say about that. I wish there was a bit more I could say about it, but it was kind of. It just played in a very particular way.
As Orcs versus Tau probably would.
Yeah.
So, end of day 1, you're sitting on 2 wins, 1 loss. That's not a bad result.
Yeah, I'm feeling really good.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really positive. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can pull out the upset here. Maybe I can submarine. Maybe I can go 4-1. And then day 2 happened. And we'll talk about that in just a second.
So,
yes.
We're in day 2 now.
We're in day 2. We've had a nice breakfast.
Yeah.
I took a glorious photo of the fireplace and said that's where I like to see the faces of my enemies. Whereas it turned out that the only enemy that I would see in there was my reflection. Because I was my own worst enemy in this day. Yeah, sort of. Not really.
Interesting.
I was outplayed. But, look, so first of all, I played Gerard, who, he's been an online supporter for ages.
Yeah.
We had a fantastic game. It was really good. He brought a very strong list. He had 2. It was Imperium, so he had 2 Valiants in there, a Castellan, 2 Helverins. Then he had the Loyal 32, and then he had a small detachment of Sisters.
Yeah.
Which are like really tiny little models, which you can just go around, and because they're characters that can't be targeted, so they just sit on objectives and hold them.
Yeah. Did he have Celestine?
No.
Okay.
No, he just literally had 3 of these characters.
So Gerard is a massive robot fan. Like, he just loves big robots. And the first time I met Gerard, he had a Pacific Rim themed Tau army. This is 7th edition, of course.
Yeah.
And anyway, we got on straight away, and then we hung out on that subsequent LVO pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
He's not coming to this one, but he's going to try and come to the one after.
Yeah.
Assuming we go there.
Yeah.
Over somewhere like Adepticon. But
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was cool. We had a really good game. He's a very good player. Like, really good player.
Yeah, he's a very good player.
Really good player. Like, I was he went
Dutch
first.
ECC team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went first, which hurt a little bit. He used the house, which allowed him to advance, and he could use the stratagem to charge as well. So it's the house, the night house, that gives you the +2 to your advance.
Oh, well, what you've got is a warlord trait called Landstrider, which allows you to do that.
Yeah, so he had that, and then there was a stratagem that allowed him to
full tilt.
Full tilt.
Yeah.
So he did the whole thing of turn 1 charge off, essentially.
He had a Castellan, right?
Yeah, but then he had 2 Valiants in the front.
So because it would be interesting to know what house he was running.
Yeah.
I mean, Gerard will probably tell me now.
He'll probably tell. I think it was Crest.
Did he re-roll all of his hits in the first round of combat?
I don't remember.
Did he do Order of Companions on the Castellan, where he re-rolls 1s on everything?
No, I don't think he did. That.
So he wasn't running Raven.
What's Crest do?
Crest is what I like.
It's the re-rolling 1s
it's
in
like
combat.
A diamond in the rough.
I think that's what it was. It's
re-rolling all hits in combat.
I think that's what it was.
Round.
I think it was Crest. It was Crest, because I seem to remember going, oh, you were running something similar, maybe.
Yeah, or then he's got you can take tricks like the Headsman's Mark, which is a relic which gives you +1 damage against things with 10 or more wounds, or if it's Titanic, +2 damage, which is insane.
Yeah, but anyway.
First,
so he had this list. It was very good. It was a very good list, very strong, and he knew Tau pretty well. so he kind of knew how to work around them, and he positioned himself well. And actually, first turn I kind of held on quite well. I was starting to lose drones quite quickly though.
Did you go first?
No, I didn't. So he managed to kill a few fire warriors, but I was my castle kind of held its own. Which
You didn't kill a Riptide in the first turn?
He didn't. No. Subsequent turns, it's a different story. But but he did some really tricksy stuff. Like I actually blew one knight up. And then he automatically detonated it, and that cleared out a lot of my drones, took mortal wounds of everyone. Do you know what I mean? So he did all that, and then when my drones were starting to get depleted, he just went to town like a volcano cannon. He started shooting at my Riptide with a 3-up invulnerable with the volcano cannon, because he knew if I just failed one, that's the end of it. And I did, obviously, so that just got removed, and then it just got brutal.
Not like this.
Not like this.
No.
I did go for a Hail Mary turn.
Yeah.
And it actually did quite well. So I had my Cold Stars left, so I suddenly shot them up the board and landed next to the Castellan. And then I managed to take, I think it was 16 wounds off it. It wasn't quite that much.
Oh, okay.
No, it might have been. It was 14 to 16, something like that. I'm sure you'll tell us. But, so I had this one turn where he actually said, okay, you've got my attention now. This is interesting.
Yeah, it's very funny.
And then he did just turn around and...
I can imagine him saying that.
Yeah. But then he did just turn around and work me. That was the Relic game as well. So I'd used my scout moves to get my Pathfinders up there to try and hold the Relic.
That's right, mission 4, the Relic, yeah.
But he went first, and he just used move on his guard, and he just went out and held it. And it was cool. He also he played quite smart. He put the Relic, which gave the guy the 2-up armor, which made it a bit more difficult for me to plink off wounds, so I could use my focus fire. Yeah. Because at the beginning of each game, you can choose what relics you're going to use in this particular format, and more traits as well. No, it's just relics, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was he beat me quite. Again, didn't table me, but there was not much left.
Yes.
By the end of that, so that was a convincing win. And that at that point I kind of went, oh, the dream is dead.
Well, you were 2-2 then, which isn't bad.
No.
So if you go for a winning record, that's kind of what most folks would be really happy with. And I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. I would have been happy with that.
I would be happy if I lost all 5, to be honest. I don't really care.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, at this stage though, so my thoughts of glory by this stage kind of dissipated. And because I'd been having so much fun with my games,
yes.
Actually, everyone I played was just cool, and I didn't have that game. And those of you who might know, you go to a tournament, and it's not so much that the person you play isn't nice to you, although that can happen, but you don't just gel with people. Sure. It's just when you play a game. I didn't have that once,
Great.
And it was just cool. So I kind of at this point I went, oh look, I can't. I'm just going to have a good time now. So I've been trying, because I like to have a beer when I play at a tournament, but I've been having the smaller beers the whole time. At this point I swapped to the bigger beers because I was just like, whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. And we just started having a good chat with everyone. So then we went to the last game, which was against I actually played our gracious host, Ruben. Yeah, Ruben was. We'll talk. He brought his Ultramarines, and we'll talk about that game in just a second. So Ruben Nab was he declared himself in charge of the entertainment while we were over there. So he wanted to take us around Amsterdam and show us all the sights. There are a few in Amsterdam which are interesting, to say the least. When we got there, he picked us up from the airport, and he had beer waiting for us, which was really nice. And he's also
really nice guy.
Yeah, really nice guy. He's an Olympian as well, he's taller than Lawrence.
Which is weird.
Yeah, he's.
It's not very. It doesn't happen very often.
Doesn't happen very often.
No.
But so he took us around on the first night, and took us to some of his local haunts and pubs and stuff. Went to the oldest pub in Amsterdam, which was really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And if you've not been to Amsterdam, all of the architecture is quite wonky. It's because it's all left over from the old times. So all of the houses like this. I found the whole thing fascinating. But anyway, there was the last game. So it was kill points, which was already not good for me because I've got 20 drops.
Yeah, this is the one where you could just get points for everything. Yeah. It's just all the points in the world.
It was holding objectives, it was kill points, and he went first. By this stage, I wasn't really paying attention to my deployment. If I'd backlined everything like I should have, it probably would have been a different game. But instead, I just decided to deploy in a fairly regular manner. Wasn't really paying much attention to what I was doing. He then went first, and then by the time I realised we were playing a game of 40k, not just having a really good time, it was too late. And then I got a bad Maelstrom draw as well. And Ruben knows his army very well. Like, he's very clinical with every move that he makes.
Ultramarine through
and through. And he literally is. If you look at it, like, you know, if say that we are actually in the 41st millennia, and we're a planet that's hidden, you know, the warp storms are just clearing, and if Space Marines came, like, he'd be chosen probably to become a Space Marine. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's that kind of guy. Like, he's a giant. Yeah. So anyway, and it kind of, we ran out of time on this one, but we were just having a good time. By this stage, I was just like, you know, let's enjoy ourselves, right? We ran out of time. I was starting to get more on, like, I was starting to get the points back. We were starting to get more, but we finished about turn 4. I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure I would have been able to, if I'd tabled him, maybe with the additional 3, I might have been able to get, like, I might have been able to pull it back.
Okay.
But I don't know. Like I said, he plays an army which it's quite an interesting army. It's all aggressors.
Yeah.
So he's got 3 units of aggressors in there. He's
3 units of 5, I think he runs.
Yeah.
With Guilliman.
And then he's got
3 Sakarans.
3 Sakarans in there.
Yeah. Tigirius.
So it's, you know, it's good. It's a really good list.
Yeah. And then Scouts as troops.
And Scouts as troops. So, but again, it was a bit more of a balanced list, I found, because like things like, I think in ETC in particular, and having things like scouts and being able to just start on objectives and all that sort of stuff, again, is a huge advantage against someone like me, I think. And Ruben played it really well. Like, I think he realised that he wasn't, although he killed like all of my Fire Warriors, which was the right play, 100% the right play, he couldn't really dent my Riptides at all. Also, this was the one map that we played that I didn't actually have much cover.
Yeah.
At all. It was the one.
And, it was frontline assault was the deployment type, so it really favoured a short range army like him as well. So he could move forward and be pretty much centre board or a bit deeper than centre board turn 1, which would bring a lot of his guns to bear. Yeah, and as we know, aggressors are disgusting. They've got a huge amount of firepower. If you're rerolling hits and wounds, which you are, right? So he just cleaned me up, absolutely cleaned me up. But again, you know, had a really nice game, had a really great weekend in total. So that was it. So I lost 3, and I won 2. I mean, it was all right. Yeah. It was all right. I think there was a couple of games. There was a few decisions I made which you know, I probably could have got 3 wins if I'd been playing a bit faster. Yeah. Maybe even 4 wins. Who knows? But it's not how it went. No. And everyone I played well. And like I said, everyone's armies were really strong cool. Field. Yeah, you know, it was good. It was good. And actually, I feel I kind of ended up in the place about where Tau sits at the moment in a field like that. Right. I think it is one of those things with a bit of luck. I could have gone a bit further. But you know, it's Tau is in an interesting spot in this current meta, because it's a weird one. I mean, you do have ways to deal with knights and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But then there's all these weaknesses in that you've got, like, you need 20 drops because you need all of the points and all that sort of stuff, and then you want to have the right Mycolite support and everything, and then suddenly you're not as mobile as you'd like to be, and so, you know, it's all kind of come around full circle. And I've got a different type of list that I'm taking to, because our next one's a couple of weeks. We're going to Heat 3. Heat 3, yeah. So I've got a different kind of list I'm taking there again, just because I want to use something a bit more mobile and still keep it as Tau. Yeah. So you'll see. You'll see what that is shortly. I think I filmed a battle report with it already, which was a really close game against the kind of lists that are going to be a problem for me. So that says that I'm on the right track. Right. Obviously,
Lawrence gave me some help with that one because I kind of came back after this tournament and I now have, although I'm losing my hair, there's less hair now than there was. I had a moment I was like but that was it. That was it. Really good games, really, really fun tournament.
Yeah.
Food was good, accommodation was, although slightly creepy, was really nice. Amsterdam's a beautiful city. If anything, I wish we could have had some more time to kind of go there during the day and do the canals properly and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I've only good things to say about the whole thing. And I won an award.
You did.
I did.
Just literally about to say.
Yeah. I won Best Sportsman.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. So that was...
So you did win.
I did win. I won. So,
So you got 3 votes out of 5, didn't you?
I don't know how many I got. I thought I got...
I'm pretty sure it was 3 out of 5.
Didn't I get 5?
No. I don't think anyone got... Well, obviously no one got 5 because otherwise they would have won.
I think I got 5. But anyway, I'm going to go with 5. Whatever.
Yes, you got 5.
Yeah, I got 5.
You actually got 10 and you only played 5 games.
Exactly. So people... That's how much fun I was.
Yeah.
But no, that was really nice. And it kind of reinforced the feeling that I got from all of the people I played. So I really enjoyed that. That was lovely. Thank you for all of you who voted for me. It was good. It was really cool. I forgot. I didn't know we were doing the Voxcast today. Or I did, but I forgot. So I don't have the trophy, but I believe I've got a photo of me holding the trophy. So that will pop up at some point. I'm making a funny face. So you enjoy that.
So that was it.
That was it.
Yeah, interesting. Obviously learnt a lot about the mission, how your army works with that mission, those ETC style missions.
Yeah.
And obviously the main point of Bone and I going were for the ITC points to build up for the LVO.
Yeah.
So you still did get 2 wins at a major, so you will be clawing some points for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where you stand after everything's been updated by Frontline.
The plan is now I have to win the LVO.
Yes, which of course you will do.
Is possible. Because I am the man of the people, you see.
Yes, of course, yes.
So, yeah, my dreams of being best tower player are slowly slipping away from me. But,
You could do it at the LVO, though.
Well,
because of the multipliers.
Yeah.
So the way it works with the ITC points, the more games you win in a row from the start, you get all of these bonus points, and there is a formula apparently based on the amount of people at the event. So if you're someone like at the LVO, you've got like 450, 500 plus players, you get some serious points.
Yeah.
But, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
So that was you.
That was me.
We'll then come to my list. Very strange list. Raised a lot of eyebrows, which is exactly my favourite way to play the game. So let's cover that. That's coming up next. So, Bones now got his jumper on.
It's cold. I was hoping you just wouldn't mention it. And we just kind of went on through the whole video and it was just suddenly I was wearing it. You ruined that one, didn't you?
Okay. Bone doesn't have his jumper on.
It's too late! Everyone knows!
And I'll tell you my list I took to the Alliance GT. So also I was there to chase some ITC points for the LVO. Which is good fun, although it always takes up so much time, so I'm not sure I will continue to do it going forward, but because I'd rather focus on just making more videos. However, having said that, I took a weird list. So it was an Imperial Soup, but technically speaking, as per the ITC rules, it counts as a Grey Knight army. Now, I don't really consider it a Grey Knight army, guys, if I'm honest. I just think you should call a spade a spade. It's an Imperium army. But for all intents and purposes, it's a Grey Knight army, okay? But let's go over it. So the Grey Knight contingent was the most expensive part.
Yep.
Didn't have my Warlord,
no.
But I spent the most points on the Grey Knights, so that's what constitutes it as a Grey Knight army in ITC. So what I had is 3 units as an Outrider detachment, 3 units of 10 Interceptors, all with 2 Falchions and Stormbolters, so 30 Interceptors on the board. Now, this was pre the FAQ. However, I called it. I said, I bet you GW have just forgotten about them not, because they don't have the fly keywords, and they didn't remove their ability to just charge through enemy models and terrain. So, but I didn't play it that way. So I didn't play the whole 0-inch charge thing. Because I didn't think that was in the spirit of it. So I was just as well, because literally 2 days later they FAQ'd it that they couldn't. So I didn't play it that way, and they didn't. So there you go. But nonetheless, with the interceptors, they are really quite a good unit.
Yeah.
The problem is they're just too expensive for Marines, as is a lot of the stuff in the Grey Knight Codex. But they did perform really well for me in the event. And I'm really, really pleased with. I mean, if they do get some points drops in chapter approved, I think I could start to make some pretty interesting things happen with Grey Knights, which is good, because that's what I want to do. So the HQ was a Grandmaster and Nemesis Dread Knight for some extra firepower and the resilience to give him heed to prognosticars, etc. So he had a heavy side cannon and the Gatling silencer and a sword. Not bad. He's not a bad unit. He is pretty command point hungry, because again, the Grey Knight command stratagems are just twice as expensive as they should be. Not all of them, but most of them. But he did all right. It was a good distraction unit. Just again, quite expensive. That was the Grey Knights. Then I took an Imperial Knights detachment. I ran House Krast for the re-rolling of hits in combat. I ran a Crusader, the ferryman himself, Knight 13 of House Endonia. Beast. And he was cool throughout the whole tournament. He was really, really cool. In fact, he only died in one game.
Which is nice.
Yeah, so what a beast. So I gave him the Avenger Gatling Cannon, and I gave him a Thermal Cannon, partly because of points and partly because I wanted some reliable Strength 9 to help take on enemy knights, because I assumed I would see some. And also, relic-wise, you didn't need to specify, or even Warlord trait-wise, you didn't need to specify what you needed to take in your list. You're allowed to change it game to game. So I did. I sometimes took First Knight on him, which is it's a Krast-only Warlord trait, which is reroll once to hit. And I took that over Iron Bulwark if I was playing something like Drakari or Harlequins or anything which had a lot of haywire, because guess what, my invulnerable save didn't mean anything there anyway, so why not just make my unit shoot better, and it proved to be very useful when it came up. But sometimes I'd switch between those two, and then relic wise I either gave him Headsman's Mark, which would basically made his Avenger Gatling Cannon damage 3
nice
against 10 wound or higher targets, or damage 4 against Titanic units, which is insane. And damage d6 plus 1 or 2 or whatever it might be, with the Thermal Cannon, which is also very good. Or I'd give him an Endless Fury. If, for example, the opponent didn't have many vehicles or monsters with 10 wounds, you just go for the extra shots and you go Endless Fury. So I switched it up quite a few times throughout the events. And then I took, along with the Crusader, the Ferryman, I took 2 Warglaves. Now, the Warglaves do become a lot more interesting with something like House Krast, because you can reroll the hits. I think the biggest issue they have is they don't do enough damage with their sweep attack, with their chain glaive, even on the 8 attack, because it is only damage 1. And I wonder if it would have been better to make them, because it is 8 strength 6 attacks at -1, which isn't bad on paper, especially with Krast re-rolling, but I feel like it should be damage 2, and then I feel that the 4 hits should be it is flat damage 3 to be fair, but I think it should be like, well, it might be a bit too harsh saying it's damage d6, but maybe it should just be damage d6. Don't know. So the reason I say that is, having used the Warglaves, now I knew Warglaves aren't necessarily the best choice. There was a couple of reasons I took Warglaves. One, it was points, it's what I could fit in, right? And I've already spent a tremendous amount of points on Grey Knights. And 2, with House Krast, I thought the added pressure and the combat ability they've got, because with the 4 hits at flat damage 3, that is quite scary when you're re-rolling to hit as well. And they're very fast, the Warglaves, so they'll often catch people off guard. They did okay. They actually did some significant damage in some of my games, and pretty much nothing in other games. I'm not a fan of them overall. That's the hindsight I've got, even with Krast, but they kind of filled the space they needed to in this list. As the thermal spear shots also gave me a little bit more anti-tank range, which was useful. Then I had the infamous Loyal 32, except my Loyal 32 is not any Loyal 32. It is the Endonian Colonial Guard. So all the way from Endonia Prime to be specific, which is where the ferryman's from. Mm-hmm. So Endonia is a completely militarized planet, and made up by myself because it's awesome. And it's where the Tempestus, the Endonian genome, are from, and they're very active in all of the Imperial war zones. And the Endonian Colonial Guard are often sent out to actually literally, a bit like the Colonial Marines from Aliens, sent out to guard colonies and new settlements and so forth, and it's very, very cool. Anyway, that was the fluff I had in my head, because I need some fluff. I don't know why the Grey Knights were there.
They just were there.
They were there.
They're just doing their thing.
Yeah, I still the whole mixed attachment thing I just find really weird. It doesn't, the army just doesn't sit right with me. Doesn't look right. But that's what you have to do in this sort of environment. And look, overall, before I get into the games, I'm really pleased with how it ran, because spending that amount of points on Grey Knights should mean that I might win 2 games, maybe. Actually probably win 1 against that sort of field, because there's a lot of nasty armies there, and the Grey Knights are in a terrible spot. And I didn't have the best knights. Take 2 Warglaves, guys. I did have the command points to fuel the tricks that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But the list is not. If you're looking for how to make Grey Knights work, this video might help you actually, and I'll tell you some of the tweaks that I would do. And again, this is all pre-chapter approved, but it's a tough one, and I didn't expect to win the event with this list. But what I hoped for, with some good play, is to win 3 games. Mm-hmm. And what I thought would be really cool is I got 4 games. Because of the ITC points would have been really good. And I knew that I would catch a lot of people off guard, because no one knows what Grey Knights do. They're just, because no one takes them, because when they take them, they use them, and they're like, oh, that's really rubbish, and you're like, yeah, and they're like, okay, you never see them again. So, but there are some tricks. So with no further ado, let's get into these games. And the first game was a matchup from the Nightmare Realm, because there was no way I should win this game on paper, and it was against Mark Crumbleholmes, a good mate of mine, but his list was horrifically powerful. So let's cover that. That's coming up next. So game 1, day 1, and we're facing Mark Crumbleholm, who's awesome, and he's using my own forces against me. And in fact, it made me miss my Drukhari, because I've not been playing them really for a while, because they became very powerful and everyone started playing them. I say everyone, actually, to be fair, that's really not true. There's still a bit of a snowflake army. But look, he had a very good list. He was running 9 Talos, which I pretty much called from day 1 when I saw the Drukhari book. Like, that is going to be a build, and it is. He was running with Chain Flails and Macro Scalpel and Twin Haywire. For those of you that don't know, the Dread Knight also has the vehicle keyword, so all of my main assets are not in a great position. It's Dawn of War deployment as well, so deploying out of range would not be as easily as perhaps some other deployment maps. And it was Deadlock, as we've said, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the Maelstrom, etc. So he's got 9 Talos, Urian Rakarth, a Homunculus with the Vexator Mask, so he could, if I charge him, he'd just go, nah, you're striking last. Very nice. Of course, he's got the Farseer with Doom. He's got a Warlock with Jigs. He's got an Eldari battalion with 3 units of Rangers, just to get more CP as well, and his Prophets of the Flesh, Talos Detachment's also a battalion with 3 units of racks, which is very, very good. Because they're a remarkably resilient troop, and you can do shenanigans like Black Cornucopians. Just go, you haven't quite killed that unit. I'm going to do a Tide of Traitors style thing. Make them appear over here at full strength on another objective. Some really, really powerful shenanigans you can pull. And Mark, being a top player, because he is a very, very good player, does all of those things perfectly. I wouldn't have expected him to make any mistakes, and he didn't disappoint. And then his final thing was the El Classic, although he didn't actually pull off an Agents of Vex in the game because he didn't really need to be fair. And it is 4 CP now, but he had, of course, the Spearhead, Black Hearts, Archon, with 3 Ravagers with Disintegrator Cannons. So basically, what does that mean, guys? It means that he's got all of the guns that are perfect at killing Marines, like the 3 Ravagers.
Yep. He's
got all of the guns that are perfect at taking out Knights and vehicles, because of Doom as well, being a force multiplier, so re-rolling all of those wounds. That's going to be bad for me. It's going to be real bad for me. So I knew that on paper I couldn't really beat Mark's list, because his list is just better than mine, but I could potentially win the mission if I play in a really cagey way. Now, as it turned out, because the way that the boards were set up at the Alliance Open, there was some pretty generous line of sight blocking terrain centre boards. And actually during deployment, I was able to get myself into a position where about 6 of the Talos couldn't really effectively engage with their Haywire. Certainly not my Dread Knight, and certainly not my Big Knight. So I was like, okay, great. But I still, despite all of that, wanted first turn.
Yeah.
Now, as it turned out, I did get first turn.
Yeah.
All right. So I moved out, and I knew. Now, Mark had done the right thing because he couldn't rely on getting first turn himself. So he removed his Ravagers from the board, and he used Screaming Jets to put them in Deep Strike, which was very good for him because it meant that I couldn't alpha those Ravagers with things like my Interceptors or with just the shooting from my Knights. Turn 1, because that was exactly what I was going to do. Mark anticipated that, and he removed that as an option from me. That was not very nice.
No. Not at all.
Because I was going with the philosophy of shooting what I can kill. Right, I'm going to clear up everything else. I know the Talos are going to be very, very difficult for me to deal with. But if I remove everything else and then start to harass his flanks, where objectives are and so forth, then I can potentially just start overtaking on the points. Now, it should be said right off the bat, I drew 6 cards, 5 of which were really good. Yeah. Now, there was a caveat, and I suppose we didn't mention this earlier, but you could only score a maximum of 3 of the Maelstrom cards per turn. That was one of the things I had in the mission pack. However, if you had 3 cards which were going to be worth 2 points each, like, I don't know, Ascension or Overwhelming Firepower, that sort of jazz, you could still get a lot of points, and all of those points go towards the overall score. So I mean, I get what they're trying to do, curbing it. I don't think the ETC format works in that regard. I'm just going to say that right now. I've every time I've experienced it on those Maelstrom cards, I've had games which I've won, which I shouldn't have, just because I've gotten lucky on the cards, not because of the skill of myself or the opponent. And I think this is actually a really good example of this, because Mark didn't make really mistakes, okay? But I've drawn a really good draw. I can't remember what it is, guys, but we did. This game was actually live streamed, so you can go back and probably watch it if you wanted to, on the Alliance GT page. But I drew a really good set of cards. I scored 3 of them right off the bat, so I had a nice rack of points, and I was able to, with my Interceptors, clear up a tremendous amount of his chaff on his left flank and my right flank respectively, and that was good. So I got myself into a good position there, and actually when I moved my Knights out, I was able to engage the nearest Talos unit and move in such a way that the other Talos wouldn't necessarily be in range
Right.
with all of their haywire. So I was being a bit cagey, you know, I was just trying my best, basically. And as it turned out, I got pretty lucky with my shots against the Talos. I think I actually managed to kill, Mark will correct me if I'm wrong, I actually did manage to kill 2 of that unit. So he was only effectively engaging me back with 1, whilst the others were kind of out of position.
Right.
So it kind of worked to my favour there. So I had a pretty sterling first turn. I killed 2 Talos. I killed 1 unit of Rangers. I killed 2 units of Racks, and I'd got one of the objectives over there on his far right flank, which was a defend objective, which would be worth another 2 points. So his Talos would sort of have to move over there and get that. They'd have to deal with these interceptors, or you know, could be a massive problem for him in the next turn. So what that meant is that I was splitting his force up and I was attacking on a hard flank with some serious power, and then I came over hard on the left flank with the interceptors, because being able to redeploy anywhere you want 9 inches away is extremely powerful right on turn 1, guys. And I forced him to split his army, and you spread him thin, if you like. And so what happened is he did that because he had to stop me scoring these points, because otherwise the deficit of points that I had would have been huge, because bless him, he drew 6 cards and they were like useless. I don't even think he could score one of them, which is again like a classic example of that's nothing to do with skill, that's just luck.
Yeah.
Which it shouldn't be that biased to luck. Now obviously this is an extreme case because it was deadlock where you've got the 6 cards, but if it can create these extreme cases, then I don't think it's working.
Yeah.
Because Mark should have been on par with me points wise turn 1, but that just wasn't the case. So now he's forced to make some seriously tough decisions to stop me getting more points and getting a big lead. And he did the right thing. He came over and he started to engage the interceptors and so forth, and he started to crack that flank. But over the course of the game, because obviously I could talk about each turn really in detail, but over the course of the game, I continued to harass his Talos, and in fact kill nearly all of them bar 1 in the end. In fact, I think I did kill all of the Talos in the end. Mark will tell. There was only like 1 left alive, max. And when his Ravagers came down, he did manage to kill pretty much all my interceptors in the end. But as the game stood, I kept drawing pretty well. He didn't draw very well. I started to get this massive lead on the Maelstrom, and because he wasn't able to effectively engage my big knight early on, he was forced to move away to deal with all of these interceptors. The ferryman survived,
which is huge.
Basically unaffected. Yeah, he was like on full profile, and just was then able to just keep laying down this brutal firepower. So I ended up destroying a couple of the Ravagers after they'd come down. By the last turn, he still had a Ravager left, and I destroyed all the Talos. And actually, in the end, I won the game.
Yeah.
Rather stupidly, you know, it was not something I should win on paper, and I'm convinced if we played that game 10 times, I'd probably win maybe 2 times, maybe. Because list versus list, and there was no issue with his skill. He wasn't outplayed. It was just he drew really badly, was then forced into some very tough choices, which obviously I applied the pressure as a player, you know, to make him make those choices. But 8 times out of 10, he's just going to draw a reasonable draw. Will be able to then not be forced to move out of position.
Yeah.
So look, it was a great game. We had good banter as we always do, and it's the first time we'd ever played each other.
Yeah, we've been
dodging each other a long time. So Mark, first blood is to me, but in all honesty, mate, I'm not going to count it because I think it was just a bit of a ridiculous game with the luck, to be honest. So next time we'll play a more reasonable. More reasonably balanced game, and then we'll see. We'll determine who the winner is. But look, great game, great fun. Commiserations to Mark. He probably should have won it. So Spider Luck had prevailed there, and I was like, okay, great. So I'm probably doing better than I thought I would. 1 win down. Let's go on to game 2. That's coming up next. So here we go, game 2, and game 2 was versus Pascal and his gorgeous Custodes army. And it was a really interesting one because this army was super tough, and he had a lot of units from the Forge World 30k range, which I was just completely unfamiliar with. So I was like, okay, how am I going to deal with this? When you don't know an army that well, or specific units that well, it can catch you off guard, and you know, you can make mistakes, etc., etc. But you know, Pascal, I got first turn, which was, I think, significant, but he did deploy really well. So there happens to be this little mountain hill thing, and he's able to deploy, and I can't remember the name of this grav tank, but it's like a Custodes 30k grav tank.
And it's got the two
things
out the front,
and it's got like insane firepower, like sort of insane firepower. It's really good. It's something stupid, like 12 strength 8 shots at damage 3 or something. It's something silly. I can't remember what it was, but it's something. So I was like, oh wow, that's serious. And then he's got the guy to the banner guy to give him -1 to hit.
Yeah.
He's got an invuln save. Everything's got an invuln save anyway. And then he's got this other big Daka Custodes Dreadnought.
Oh yeah.
Which just unleashes hell on whatever it looks at. And these 3 things are up on this hill. There's no way to get up there, Pascal. I can't charge him.
It's a bit cheeky.
It was good. He's well deployed. He played well. And then he's got all the bikes in the world. All of them. 3 shield captains, which could play pass the parcel with becoming the warlord. Again, played very well there. But this is what I did. This is, again, the interceptors just, whew, they're amazing.
Yeah.
So I went, right, well, I'm not really going to be able to effectively deal with the nightmare mechanized Mountain of Doom. Let's call it Mount Doom.
Yeah,
this
that's
game.
Right,
So and if I try to, I'll end up putting far too much resource into it, and he's just going to counter me with all of his bikes. It's going to ruin my day. So what I did is redeployed, and I put off. I combat squadded all of my units, and I did smite. Combat squadded all of them by 1 unit. Sorry, kept 1 unit as 10 deliberately, which you'll find out why in a minute. Put my Dread Knight over there as well for the additional smites. And what I did is, because he didn't really have much in the way of screening, I was able to snipe his warlord, which he then with my Dread Knight.
Right.
And I spent all of the CP turn 1, basically. I made this Dread Knight strength 8 with the heavy side cannon, strength 5 with the Gatling silencer.
Yeah.
And it's an additional minus then, because they've all got like 3 up invuln saves anyways, these captains. So, you know, the fact that he was only going to get 3 up saves, he was going to get 3 up saves regardless, was fine. I had the high rate of fire and good damage. So anyway, I sniped the warlords, which he then passed the parcel over to another one of the biker warlords. And then one of my interceptor units, the 10-man one, had the sidebolt ammunition stratagem, so that made them strength 5 -1, and I put 40 shots re-rolling ones to hit into one of the biker units, and this is after they've been softened up with some smites. So, and then all of the other units did smite for the 1 damage mortal wounds, just plinking them off. And then they just unleashed all of their Stormbolter fire in as well. So basically, by the end of my first turn, I pretty much obliterated 2 of the bike units and killed one of the captains. So that put me in a really good spot. But the remaining bike unit and his 2 remaining characters are still rock solid, and they proceed to go and obliterate about 23 interceptors. Because with the hurricane bolters, and then when they're with the charge, that's how they roll, you know. And I expected, you know, I had to wear that. That was just the way it was, right? But I still had about 6, maybe 7 left at the end of it.
Yeah.
So they were able to then, in my next turn, get a couple more smites off, shoot a little bit more, and the Dread Knight was still very much alive and kicking, so he was able to start wading in, and then meanwhile the ferryman's just moving forward, laying down suppressing fire, and we did keep firing our thermal spears and everything, thermal cannons up at the vehicles, but the Dreadnought just wouldn't die, and I kept rolling 2s for my damage despite being in melter range. 1 and 2, and I actually did that 4 turns in a row. So it lived forever.
Yeah.
But to cut a long story short, by the end of the game, I did finally destroy that Dreadnought, and his shooting back on me was just pretty unlucky, to be honest. He should have been doing more damage, but I was able to keep rotating my ion shields. He did destroy one of the Helverins, one of the Warglaves, of course, straight off the bat. And then when he realised that the other one couldn't really charge him, I'm just sitting up there and just firing my D3 thermal spear with not much effect. He was like, right, I need to focus on taking the big knight out. But I kept making my invons as well. So he started to damage him, but I was still in a pretty good position. And in the minute I destroyed the big Dreadnought, I was then able to get the ferryman up to charge.
Right.
There was then space to fit up on this hill. And by that point, it was game. So we finished the game, but it was a pretty handy victory for myself. And you know, it could have been more interesting if he was a bit luckier on just his shots, and certainly more interesting if he had gone first. I think he wouldn't have been in range to charge me or to do the hurricane bolters on my interceptors, so they would have survived. But you know, if he'd gotten a bit luckier with the shots on my knight, maybe turn one, could have been interesting. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think not a bad matchup for me, considering I've just come off of the first game winning. So in that respect, I was like, okay, my army can at least compete against this.
Yeah, which is nice.
So now I'm sitting on 2 wins. I'm like, okay, not bad. I'm very close to 3 wins now.
Yeah.
You know, I was hoping for 3.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just drops at me. But I think at this point, I'm like, if I get a 3rd win in, my sort of work is done.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting the 3rd game to be real tough. Because it's, you know, and as it turns out, it was a really interesting game. So let's cover that. That's coming up next. So now we're at game 3. We're near the end of the day, and I play Wayne, who's awesome. So we had a really good time. We had some beers, and you know, and his army I really liked. And the first thing he said to me was like, "Oh, it's a fluke. I'm here. I shouldn't be here." But actually, in Wayne's defence, he's actually a really good player. He totally did deserve to be on 2 wins, and I could see why. His list, he was running Adeptus Mechanicus, which on paper, you know, aren't necessarily the strongest right now, but he was taking the best from. He was taking the cream of the crop, if that makes sense. And make no mistake, this army had teeth. He's got a Blood Angels battalion in there as well.
Oh, very nice.
He's got Mephiston. He's got the Smash Captain. And he's got Dakabots with Cool. He's got 20 Electro Priests. He's got a lot of Screening Chaff. He's got 2 of the Dune Crawlers. So to summarise, he's got the ability to take out my knight.
Yeah.
You know, he's got that ability. There's no question there. And he's also got the ability to ruin my interceptors with all of that Daka fire.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for those of you who don't know, he had... Wayne will no doubt leave a comment, but I think did he have 5? It might have been 6 robots. It was definitely a minimum of 5, but it might have been 6.
That's a lot.
The firepower they kick out is insane, and then when you've got Cool nearby, re-rolling it all becomes super, super powerful. So what I needed to do, and I knew I needed to tag these guys super early, is I needed to shut that firepower down.
Yeah.
You know, at all costs. And he deployed really well, screened out here, you know, he's a big fan. I wish I'd taken any pictures, because you guys would have seen what I meant. But I had an opportunity, an opening where I knew if I got lucky, and I rolled well on the charge and I fought twice, that I would actually be able to get myself into a position to consolidate into the Dakabots.
Right.
And that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Was to stop them shooting me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. So to cut a long story short, I went first. I think Wayne went first. Pretty sure he did. He did, yeah. And now I deployed in a way that was out of range.
Right.
With his Dune Crawlers. And his Dakabots, because I had no interest in losing half my army before the game even began.
No.
Or having my knight really damaged. So that's what I did. So his turn 1 was pretty uneventful. He just scored like a couple of Maelstrom cards. Mm-hmm. Then in my turn 1, I redeployed hard with most of the interceptors, 2 units of them. on the right flank. And there was an opportunity to sort of use his screen against him, if you like, where if I pulled off a charge, I started shooting the chaff around everything else bar this one unit that I wanted to make the charge with. And I knew if I made the charge on that unit, because there was another screening unit just behind it, and I couldn't declare a charge on those robots because he had screened in such a way that I wasn't going to ever be within 12 inches, so I couldn't declare the charge, so, props to him. But what I could do, because I could fight twice with a stratagem, is if I charged both of these screens, what I would do is kill one, the front one, and you'd use your max move and consolidate to get everything in, around. And then what I would do is I would then pile in, consolidate into the other unit, and I would activate to fight again, which then gives me another pile in and another consolidate. So what I needed to do is kill both those units to then have enough move to tag the robots. Now, to cut a long story short, my first turn was flawless. That's exactly what I did.
Very good.
Yeah. So I made the charge. I killed the Skitarii, the vanguards. I then consolidated. I activated to fight again. Killed the other unit. Tagged his robots. That shut them down. That protected my interceptors dramatically. And that was all over on the right flank. Meanwhile, on the left flank, we've got Mephiston and the shield captain and everything, and which he'd screened with his loyal 32. He had guardsmen of his own. So that was going to be a problem. I knew that. But I started to edge the knight towards it, but with a mind that he wouldn't be able to countercharge me in the next turn. Right. I knew that he could redeploy, but I'd found out my own guardsmen and everything to try and mitigate that issue. But, it's a really tactical game. And to be fair, at this point, it still could have been anyone's game. But then over the next couple of turns, I managed to remove the screen that he had around Mephiston and the shield captain, or the smash captain. The smash captain did, in fact, make a charge against the ferryman, because, of course, he can do a 3d6 inch charge and everything. And he just whiffed. He's just pretty unlucky, to be honest, guys, And as a result, he didn't kill the ferryman. Ferryman was still actually pretty much okay. It was like mid profile, and I was able to kill the captain. And then subsequently, with my other interceptor unit, as I flanked around, I was actually able then in the end to kill Mephiston and crush that flank where there were a couple of objectives. And then I just continued to put the pressure on with my Dread Knights and the remaining interceptors on the right flank, and that basically won me the game. It got me the board control, and we finished the game out, and it was a pretty handy victory to the Imperium that was / Grey Knights that I was running. So 3 games down now, and I'm on 3 wins. And now at this point, I'm like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, all I wanted from day 2 was another win. If I'd gotten 5 wins, it would have been ludicrous. Of course, anything's possible, but I would have been surprised, right? But what I wanted was that 4th win, and ideally that 4th win in a row, which would then, of course, put me in the finals or the top table or whatever you want to call it for game 5, which would have been hilarious. So let's go into game 4. That's coming up next. So game 4, the infamous Relic. Always an interesting one, a very interesting one, and the way that they played it with this, the Maelstrom was still active, but the Relic was worth, I think it was 6 victory points to the person that held it at the end of the game.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm playing Alex. Now, Alex is an exceptional demon player and a regular top 5 finisher at any of the events he goes to. He's part of the infamous Team Draco.
Oh, yes.
So they're based out of the London Warhammer Guild. So it's kind of their competitive team for 40k. So it was first time playing Alex, which is cool, but I've met him before a couple of times, and he's running 120 Plague Bearers. Ouch. And he's running 2 Bloodletter Bombs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with a tree in the middle, Sloppy Bile Piper, all of the usual trimmings, and a Khorne Demon Prince with the special axe, which basically kills knights for fun.
Very good.
So really good list anyway, but a really good list for the relic.
Yeah.
Like a really good list for the relic. And it was search and destroy. It's where you're in quarters, where you only start 18 inches away from each other. And there's like so you could move to the relic relatively quickly, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I knew this was going to be real tough. Now, the good news is it's demons, so I get damage 3 smites with my interceptors, who of course I combat squadded. The bad news is if I kill any unit, he could just bring it back because of the demon stratagem. So I needed to be really clever with how I do this. I couldn't actually afford to have the Grey Knights kill any unit. I could have him die to morale, but although he's got Softy Bilepiping, so he's got a good chance of one more coming back anyway. But I needed to be smart and make things happen with the Knights, finish off with the Knights. Now, as it turned out, I did get first turn, which enabled me, with of course my shunt maneuver, to get my hands on the relic by the end of turn 1. So that was quite cool, and I really wanted first turn, to be honest, because if he had gotten hold of the relic early, I think that would have been would have been a problem.
Yeah.
But also it would have given him the opportunity to fan more out and push me further back, which is very much what his list is designed to do. Just have masses of board control, sit on all of the Maelstrom objectives, just score all the points. He doesn't need to table you, because it's going to be real difficult to table him, usually, right? Except my list is quite good
You had all those storm bolters.
Yeah, and the damage 3 smites to soften up first. And House Crass Knights, where I can just reroll all of the hits in combat as well. So I'm good at fighting and I'm good at shooting. So to cut a long story short, got the first turn. I'm sitting on the relic. Okay, cool. I've got the ferryman slightly further back to protect for a potential counter charge, but not too far forward so that he couldn't be charged, because I knew if that knight charged, the Demon Prince of Khorne charged him, just kill him quite easily. I placed my Dread Knight in such a way hard on his right flank that again the Khorne Prince couldn't come out and charge me, wasn't in charge range. So again, playing to the flanks and shot up all of the 2, he fanned his Plague Bearers out. Basically, he had these bands, elastic bands, on his models to determine the unit. So he had like red squad, yellow squad, red squad, yellow squad, red squad, yellow squad, that sort of thing, right?
Right.
So they're all as close to the relic to get to it as they can be in their turn 1. Now, as it turned out, I basically severely hurt and all but killed the 2 front units between all of the Stormbolter fire, the ferryman, and the smites. One failed their morale. They didn't. Sloppy Piper didn't go off, and that wipes them out. And the other one had like 7 models left in it. So I had a really, and that was those were the units which are nearer the relic, right? So that was pretty good going. Now, as it turned out, he did the right thing. Of course, he starts fanning out and coming towards me. He does kill something like maybe 13 interceptors in his next turn, and is starting to chase the relic now. Gets a couple of good draws on the Maelstrom, starts scoring some points. Okay, not a problem. And his Khorne Demon Prince is being quite cagey himself, because he doesn't want me to charge him.
No.
And he wants to be able to also keep my big knight back to provide the counter. So it was quite a bit of cat and mouse going on, which is really cool. Really dropped it again. Really tactical game, and it was good, And then I think by about turn 3, I've managed to get the relic to right near the quarter of, because you can only move 9 inches, right?
Yeah.
Maximum of 9 inches with it. So I've managed to get it near my back line, where I've got all of my loyal 32, because I didn't put them out. I did move 1 unit out to get an objective at one point. He got really unlucky with a Bloodbetter bomb that came in and failed to charge, even on the 3d6. And then he re-rolled one of the die, and he rolled a 2 again.
Oh no.
To be fair, it wasn't actually that significant, because he was only going for a guardsman unit.
Yeah.
But he was trying to stop me scoring because they were on a defend objective, 2 points. But I mean, it would obviously we wanted it to go off, but it wasn't actually as bad as it sounds. It was just a bit unlucky. Sure. The other bloodletter bomb did succeed in their charge and did obliterate one of the units of guardsmen. And they then came onto one of the maelstrom objectives in my corner, which was, you know, they needed that point basically. So it was quite good. But by this point, it then comes to turn 4. I've got 1 interceptor left alive. And I've been slowly but surely smashing all of the plague bearers down. He's actually only got 1 unit of 7 plague bearers left in my deployment zone to deal with this interceptor that's holding the relic, and his Khorne Demon Prince, who is also the warlord, is dead because he charged one of my warglaves. He destroyed it. He charged one of the interceptor units, but I then heroically intervened.
Oh yes.
Oh no! What did I do? No, I didn't heroically intervene. I interrupted the combat. That's what happened. He activated something, and then I was able to actually interrupt and attack his Demon Prince with the Warglaive. I did the 4 attacks. He failed 3 saves. It was 9 damage. The Prince was dead. So, you know, that I got him there basically, you know, which is quite good. So I got Warlords, and I've been slowly racking up points myself. So this is a really tight game now, but not just tight. I'm winning the game. I've got the relic.
Yeah.
Right? And it's turn 4. Now, as it turns out, we've run out of time. I went first, so he's got the last turn. He then moves these last 7 plague bearers, and he engages the interceptor with the relic, and of course he kills him. I drop the relic, and then what that meant was he's got the relic at the end of the game. And it meant he'd killed the interceptor before, so he could go and pick up the relic, right? So he was holding the relic. So he gets the +6 points here, and all I need is turn 5. And I've got the relic, and basically at this point I've won the game, because the ferryman is there literally right next to these 7 plague bearers, as is my dread knights, as is 20 guardsmen, and my Simeon, the leader of the Endonian Colonial Guard. So all I needed to do is one more turn. I would shoot up all of those plague bearers, kill them. They would drop the relic, and then I'd have the ferryman just guard it.
Yeah,
not a problem. He only had, I think, approximately 24 plague bearers left on the board. Not very much.
Close game.
Yeah. And I'd killed all of the bloodlesses were all dead. Killed them all with shooting and guardsmen rapid fire, first rank fire, second rank fire, and all that sort of jazz. So at this point, the game ends and he wins. Ugh. And it's like, nice. Man, just one more turn.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the way a tournament game goes sometimes, because you are on the clock, and like you were saying about plague bearers earlier, you know, they are an army which takes more time to play. You're playing more models, and then you've got all of these additional saves, and you've got all of the combats. It just takes more time to play. And my army's guilty of it too. I've got a psychic phase. I'm in the combat phase, you know, the fight phase. I'm active in the shoot phase. So, you know, between the two of us, we actually played pretty quick. It was just very difficult. It's very difficult to finish that game. It's the only game I didn't finish in the whole event. But at 2,000 points, even with their generous allowance of time, you know, 2 hours 45, I think is what they gave us. You just couldn't finish it, and it lost me the game.
Yeah.
So that was like, because I could have won that.
Yeah.
And I did win it. Or you know, if we had the time to play, I did win it. So lost out on the 4th victory, but I'm like, okay, well look, that's going to knock me down a bit. Maybe I can get a lucky matchup for my 5th game and still get the 4th win. It wouldn't be a 4th win in a row, but it would get me potentially a top 5 finish, and still give me some more ITC points. So let's see what I face next in game 5. So game 5, I played Innes Wilson, who's part of the Scottish ETC team, but you may know him from a podcast called Caledonian Death Watch. I hope I've said that correctly. Pretty sure I have. So, having a brain having a brain fart now. No, I'm pretty sure it's Caledonian Deathwatch. Anyway, it is a great podcast. I have listened to it before. I don't know why I can't remember the name properly now, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. So anyway, Innes, cool guy. Really, really good army, and obviously a very good player. But this was a bad matchup for me. Like, really bad. Now, it's Tyrannid, so on paper you're like, but Lawrence, you've got all these Stormbolters, this must be a good matchup for you. No, not for a couple of reasons. One, the deployment type, which was the frontline assault, so he could deploy forward. So it's the Dawn of War, but 18 inches apart. Two, it was the mission where all of the points counted, so kill points, Maelstrom, everything was, all of the objectives were progressive, etc., etc. And he had an extremely fast army, and he had a way of mitigating the amount of Stormbolter fire that I could bring against his asset units turn one. So what he did, I think he was running, I mean, Innes might comment, but I think he was running 60 Gene Stealers, but I want to say it was actually 80. I think it was 4 units of 20 he had. He'll correct me if I'm wrong. He minimum had 60, 100% had 60, but I'm pretty sure it was 80. He then also had, and this is Kraken, obviously, he had a detachment for Kronos for his Hive Guard, the 6 shooting Hive Guard, standard. Not Malanthropes, Neurothropes for the Smites, Shadow in the Warp, Swarm Lords for Counterpunch.
Swarm Lord?
Yeah, but you can, because of the move again. So it makes,
right.
So it's
all need him.
It's all very clever, because Kraken you can roll 3d6 picking the highest, and then you've got on your advance, and you've got the advance and charge strat. You've got the strat where you can roll 3d6 and just pick them all, add them all up for Kraken, for the Gene Stealers. So the Gene Stealers are obscenely fast. So basically in this deployment type, he's almost guaranteed a turn 1 charge without having to do too much, and he can potentially get 2 of those 20-man Gene Stealer units in, which would just ruin the interceptors completely, and that would be my highest rate of fire stuff almost neutered, which would win him the game, right? So I was like, okay, well, 1, I want to go first. 2, I want to try and deal with as many of the Gene Stealers as I can, but he deployed really well, so he had all his Hormigant and Ripper screen right at the front of the line, and then he deployed his Gene Stealers 3 inches back. Now the significance of that is that it means that when I redeploy with my interceptors, that yes, I can shoot at the Gene Stealers, but it's not rapid fire range. It's 20 shots instead of 40, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's huge.
And don't forget, the Gene Stealers always have a 5-up invuln anyway, and he did of course play prepared positions for the additional save. So to cut a long story short, I'm like, okay, this is a really tough matchup, but I'll see what I can do. And the reason because he's sitting on 4 wins at this point, so in theory we shouldn't be playing each other, but he's won 4 games, but he's won 4 games just, they're like all small victories.
Yeah. So
because my 3 wins that I had were quite big victories, but then when I had the loss, which to be fair was actually still quite close, I still clawed, I think it was 16-8 that I had from Alex. So in ETC terms, I don't know what that means, but I got some tournament points for it. So when I faced Innes, we were on a similar points bracket, but this was the matchup which I was hoping that I wouldn't sort of get with that sort of army. I was hoping that I'd get someone who'd also just gotten a big loss, and then it might have evened out better. But anyway, I got first turn. I redeployed. Hard on one right flank and then hard on one left flank, and the reason to do that is there was a gap for the Hive Guard where I could smash up the Hive Guard, and I knew that I wanted to get rid of at least one of his main ranged assets to help my knight survive, and it turns out that plan worked pretty well. I killed the majority of Hive Guards. He had 2 left, I think, from a unit of 6, so I was like, yeah, good, that'll do. I can deal with 2 of them firing. I just didn't want 6 firing, and then firing twice.
Yeah,
Kronos
exactly.
rerolling once to hit,
Yeah.
But he was going to be able to counter that interceptor unit that went over there to do that. I did put the stratagem on for strength 5 -1, so I could get all of the additional wounds. And then in this next turn he was able to bring the Gene Stealer unit over to kill them, fine. And then over on the right flank I tried to shoot up as much of the Gene Stealers as I could with the Dread Knights, and then likewise with the interceptors. And then this is where I got a little unlucky. Well, not unlucky, but I think it could have made the game a bit more interesting. I don't think on paper I'd win this game very often. It's a bit like the Mark Crumbleholm situation, but I did have a chance. You know, and if you've got a chance, you have to take it, right? But I really needed to make the combat, and I didn't. So I had 4 units, in fact, that I brought over there. Because it was 4 plus the Dread Knight, so 5 in total. Because I combat squadded these 2 interceptor units. Right. And I kept 1 interceptor unit back so that I could counter his Gene Stealers after they did their thing, right?
Right.
I failed every single charge.
Oh, no.
And I just needed to make like 1, maybe 2. Because the plan was going to be, now I couldn't charge the Gene Stealers, I know that. But I needed to remove this screen, which was preventing me. He was going to continue to use that to screen out my 3rd interceptor unit to kill all of those Gene Stealers. So I shot up as many of the Gene Stealers as I could from behind, and all I wanted to do actually was then charge the Hormigants and kill them, fight twice if I needed to.
Right.
Because then his screen was completely gone, and then actually I would have had a bit more momentum from my first turn. Turned out failing all of those charges, yeah, that sucks. Yeah. So what happens is he counters, he kills all of the interceptors that are up in his face. Obviously the Dread Knight's a little bit more difficult to deal with, so he's not killed him. Then I'm able to counter by bringing my other unit of interceptors out, and obviously I'm firing with my the ferryman and so forth. But to cut a long story short, the second turn, and this is where the luck gets a bit worse, on 40 shots against the Gene Stealers, I killed like 4. Not because he was rolling really hot on his saves, although he was, but I rolled so badly on the wounds, it's not even funny. And I had popped the strat again, so I was winning them on 3, so I just rolled, it was like a sea of 1s and 2s, and Innes was like, yeah. I was like, so that was a bit of a turning point, because if I'd gotten more of momentum on killing the Gene Stealers on that flank, then I would have started to own that flank. But as it turned out, I didn't, so that meant that he was then able to then sweep across that flank. Again, he still struggled to deal with the Dread Knight. I did kill his Warlord, his Hive Tyrant in the end, with the Dread Knight. But eventually he was able to sweep over the Dread Knights by turn, I think we actually played to turn 5, if I remember correctly. And he swept over the Dread Knight and then was able to just, use the strats to like fight again to like sweep round. So he then eventually swept up the left flank, swept up the right flank. I mean, to be fair, I'd actually killed a lot of his stuff by this point, but another significant thing, I failed to kill his Swarm Lords after shooting him up and charging him with my Krast Ferryman. He rolled really, really well on his invons, and I rolled really bad on my wounds again. Another significant turning point, because actually then if I'd killed the Swarm Lord in my deployment zone, the Ferryman would have been very solidly able to hold that flank and then continue to laying the fire down. So at every point where I just needed a bit of luck, it failed. Yeah. And so by the end I had like 10 guardsmen left and my Warlord Simeon hanging around the back, and he had approximately 15 Gene Stealers left. The Neurophobes just stayed in his deployment zone. And that was the thing, he was just able to just sit, and he kept drawing great cards, just sit on his objectives in his deployment zone, scoring those points. So that was it. It was a max loss, which was brutal, which knocked me down to 24th in the end. Is where I finished. So it was a shame, because I was wanting that 4th win would have been good.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Just for the ITC points would have been good. Yeah. But I felt really happy that I've gotten the 3.
Yeah.
And in a row, because that was good for the ITC. That's basically all I needed for the ITC points. So it hasn't updated yet, but I think it will nudge me into the top 5-ish for Grey Knights on 3 events, which isn't bad. And it's not much of an achievement, because I think there's only like 10 of us out there. It's more than, I think it's like 100, but you get what I'm saying, guys. I'm just trying to make the I just love playing with armies which aren't good. It's terrible. It's like I should just use a good army. When I do use a good army, I tend to do quite well.
Yeah.
But it's got this thing where I love using. It's because I love the Grey Knight so much. Yeah. But look, quite happy with it overall. What would I take away from it? The Warglaves, obviously I would get rid of them if I had the points. I mean, the Grey Knights are just too many points. We'll review it post-chapter approved. Then I might be able to start making it a bit more interesting in terms of a soup. The Interceptors overall were all stars. They did really well.
I love them in your list. They're just so good.
They are really good. Ferryman did really well. The Royal 32 did what they're designed to, which gives me command points and sit on objectives. But yeah, overall, the list, it did probably about as good as it should do on paper. But I am really happy with it because, even in that fourth game against Alex, which I did lose, I should have won if we carried on. So it shows that the list kind of worked.
Yeah, no,
it kind of worked.
Because over on the website, we play a game.
Yes.
And you can, I say I just really like how it plays.
Yeah.
The amount of pressure that you can put on someone is incredible. That has to be dealt with. And the whole time you've got your guard just hanging around in the background, just picking up objectives, all that sort of stuff. And that's, I really like it. I think it's really good.
Yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun to play as well, which is cool. I'd love it to just be Grey Knights, but let's wait for chapter approved and see what happens. So that was it. Great event. I learned quite a bit about my army. You learned a lot about mission formats, didn't you? How they work.
Yeah, sure did.
So maybe we'll see them again at some point in the future. But the next one will be Heat 3, which of course we'll do another Voxcast on. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And I think that we actually need 4 wins to qualify for the finals. So
yeah. So
which is, can't be scraping 3 wins there.
No. So I'm looking forward to that very much.
Well, your list actually I think is really fun.
Yeah, I think it's very fun.
No, but I think you could win 4 with it.
We'll see. We'll see.
So, folks, hope you've enjoyed this Voxcast, another tournament report from us here at Tabletop Tactics. Until next time, this has been the Spider and the Bone, and we'll see you very soon.